In previous videos, we've explored the Enum and List modules for iterating over lists. Now let's take our shopping cart project to the next level by integrating an inventory management system. We'll use these modules to efficiently manage stock levels, handle restocking, and automatically reorder low stock items. This will not only reinforce your understanding of loops and iteration in Elixir, but also demonstrate how these concepts can be applied in a real-world application. So let's go ahead and open up our shopping cart code. So I'm going to just do command space. Let's do our terminal first and cd to our desktop and then our shopping cart directory. All right, and then we can go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code and open up our shopping cart project. And if you remember, so now as we look at this, we have to figure out how we could add an inventory manager. We are currently adding an item that has a name and price. For us to track our inventory though, we would need to track a little more data. So we will need to add some values like quantity for total inventory of the item. And since we want to automatically reorder when we hit certain levels, we should have a lower threshold number and maybe the quantity we want to replenish each time an order is made. In our terminal, so we could probably have a map or something. So let's see, we'll call it a product equals, and then our map is we're currently adding items, which is just a name and price, right? So we might want a name like this. So name Apple, price 276. So that's what we have. And then we'll probably want to add something like quantity 5. So that could be our inventory level. And then we would want our reorder level. So when we do replace, or when we do check to see if things should be ordered, if our quantity is lower than say 10, we want to then reorder. And then our reorder amount, every time we do reorder, let's say we want 20 more apples. So we might want, oh, I forgot to start our Elixir shell. I was like, what is going on here? IEX space dash capital S space mix. And now we can copy and paste this. And this could be our new map for our product. So name, price, quantity, reorder level, and then reorder amount. So if our quantity drops below the reorder level, then we reorder 20 apples. So now since we aren't working with a database or gen server yet, the only way we can really keep state is passing an inventory list into our add item function. So we have a few things we have to consider with tracking inventory now. We have to verify that the item being added exists in our inventory and that we have enough to fulfill the order. And then we want to adjust the inventory once an item is added to our cart. So if we go to our add item, I'm just going to make some comments here. We want to make sure it exists. Does item exist? And then we want to make sure we have enough in inventory to take the order, right? So do we have enough to fulfill the order? And then we want to, so if yes, then we need to add the item to the cart and update the inventory. Okay, so with that in mind, we have a few steps here. And we should create a new module now. So in the lib directory, create a new file, and we'll call it inventory underscore manager.ex. And then go ahead and create the def module. There we go. We need a function that finds our product based off the name. And this function will have to take a list of our inventory and the name of the product we need to verify. So let's go ahead and create our first function in our inventory manager. So def, and then the name of our function will be get product, and it needs to take our inventory list and the name of the product we are verifying is in our inventory, and then do our do block. And enum has a really nice function called enum.find. And how this works is you pass in a list or an enumerable. In our case, it's going to be our inventory. And then we can do our anonymous function here. So as we iterate through our inventory, we'll name that individual variable our product. And if that product's name equals the name that we passed in that we're looking for, we will return the product. And now enum.find will return nil if it doesn't find anything, okay? So now that we have a way to find a product in our inventory, let's head back over to our shopping cart. And we can now call this call this function. So I think we should use a case statement since we just learned how to do this. And we can call a function here. So we can call inventory manager dot find, or it's get product, and we're going to pass in. So we need to pass in our inventory and our product name. And our function is not set up to do this yet, but I'm going to just finish off the do block here in a second. So right now, our function currently just takes our cart and our item. Let's go ahead and adjust this a little bit. So we want it to take our cart, which is, the items we've added to our cart to check out. So then we're going to need our product name here and the amount, so the number of products we want to add to our account, we'll call it amount. And then we need to pass in our inventory list. Once we start working with gen servers and databases, we obviously wouldn't pass all the data around like this as arguments, but this is our only way to keep track of state right now. So that's why we pass in cart and inventory. And obviously, as we grow our skills, we'll be simplifying things quite a bit. So now that we have our cart list, our inventory list, the product we're looking for, and how many of that product we want, we can finish our case statement here. If get product doesn't exist, it will return a nil. And if the product doesn't exist, we want to just return an error back. So an error tuple, and then we'll just return an atom that says product not found. And then so we know what happens. And then we're going to have our next condition. So if it's not nil, that means we have a product. So if we have a product, so we now need to, so we can use a guard here. So we want to say so if we have a product returned, basically the variable here is just product, and we're naming it product here so we have something to call it. We want to make sure that we have enough to fulfill this order. So if we say product dot quantity, because we are now, if we go back to our terminal, quantity is how many we have in stock. And that's going to be a number we keep track of in our inventory. We want to make sure that this is greater than or equal to the amount we want to add to our cart. And if that happens, then we'll run the code in here. So if this is true, I'm just going to make a little comment here. So if true, then we add item to the cart and update inventory. And we can delete that comment. And then this comment, we can just put right above this statement. Do we have enough to fulfill? Because that's what this check is doing. Oh, it's trying to return a value. We'll just return a string here. Add item to cart and update inventory. It just wants something to return. We'll get rid of this commented code then. And then we'll have our catch-all statement, which is just going to be an underscore. And then we can just say, so if we do have a product, it's not nil, but say the quantity is not enough to fulfill our order, then we need our little catch-all error. So we're going to return another error tuple. And this time we'll say insufficient insufficient stock. So if this guard ends up being false, then it's going to fall through to the last catch-all condition. So now that we know if an item exists, now we need to be able to add the item to our cart and subtract the same amount from our inventory. So we can add the product to the same way we did before.
Hi, I'm Jacob. My YouTube channel and podcast reach thousands of engaged Elixir developers every month. If you're looking to promote your developer tools, services, or job opportunities to a focused audience of Elixir professionals, head to elixirmentor.com and let's discuss sponsorship options.
So we're taking our cart and adding the item to the top of the cart. All right. I'm going to delete this though, because obviously that doesn't work anymore. We don't have an item. But what we can do here now, instead of returning our string check here, what we can do is let's set a variable to new cart. And that's going to be equal to a list. And what we're going to add to our cart now is going to be the product name and then the amount of that product. So let's just, inside of a tuple, call our product.name and then comma, and then the amount that is added to the cart. And then we'll go ahead and use the cons operator and take the cart. So we're updating the cart state with our new product and amount, and then returning a new cart. Now, all we have to do is update our inventory. So we're going to need to jump back over to our inventory. So we need to update our inventory here. So update inventory. All right. So let's jump back over to our inventory manager. And we're going to have to create a new function called update inventory. And this is going to take our inventory list, the name of the product that we're updating, and the amount that just got added to the cart that we have to subtract from our inventory to keep things. We got to keep track of everything, right? So here we're going to just use enum map to iterate through our list, which is inventory. And then we can do an anonymous function here. So each item of our inventory we'll call product. And then inside this anonymous function, we can go ahead and just return down for readability. We'll just do a little if statement. So if our product.name equals the name that we need to update, then we will update the quantity, right? So inside of a map, here's how we can update. So we're taking our product map, and to update just one key in our map, you can use the cons operator and followed by the key that you want to update, which is quantity. Quantity in our case. And what we can do here is all we want to do is say product dot quantity minus the amount we just add to our cart. So now this product's quantity is going to be updated with a new number, which is really, really cool. And then in our else statement, so if the product name doesn't equal the name that we're looking for, we're just going to return the product that, so we're untouched. So basically we're only updating the product whose name matches the update. And then we're just going to return an entire list of inventory again. So this will return our updated inventory list. So if we hop back over to our shopping cart, underneath our new cart, now we can create our another variable called new underscore inventory and call this new function. So we can call inventory manager dot update, let's save it. I don't think I did. All right, inventory manager dot update inventory. There we go. All right, and now in this function, we need to pass in our inventory list. And then we need to pass in the product name that we're updating. So product dot name, and then the amount we're subtracting from our inventory. I'm just going to tab this over so it's more readable. And then down below, we now have a new cart and new inventory, and we want to return our new cart and new inventory, but we want both because we need to keep track of the state because we're only, we're juggling these variables essentially. So we're going to create a tuple with an OK atom. And then our first item, we're going to just return our new cart. And then the third item will return our new inventory. So that allows us to set our new variables to our new cart and new inventory. So now we should probably test out our function, right? So if we go to our terminal, let's go ahead and hit recompile. And we need to create our new inventory list and an empty cart list. So if we create an inventory here, we're going to say it equals, so we want a square bracket. We're putting maps in a list, but we need our new maps to match our product. So let's go ahead and create one called name. We'll call it Apple. Price is $2.76. Quantity of 5 in inventory. And then we have our reorder level of 10. And then our reorder amount of 20. And that is one map. And now I'm going to just copy and paste so we can go a little quicker here. And let's add a new item. Whoop. We're going to need that. And then let's just call it. We don't want it called Apple. Let's go ahead and call this one an orange. And let's change the price so it's different, just to $2.96, let's say. And I would say reorder level and reorder amount can stay the same. And then all we have to do is close off our square brackets so we have our inventory list. And there we go. Now if I type in inventory, we have our inventory list. We have an apple and orange. And now we also want to have a cart that equals an empty list because we haven't added any items yet. And if we want to test this now, let's go ahead and just do some pattern matching. So we're looking for a tuple that has an OK atom, and then it's going to return a cart to us and an inventory to us. And if we set this equal to now we can call our shopping cart dot add item, and we're going to pass in our cart, which is an empty list, and we want to add an apple to our cart. And let's say we want 3 apples, and then we're going to pass in inventory so that can be updated. So now when I hit enter, we're going to get a cart back with 3 apples in it, and then we're going to get an inventory back with only 2 apples left in inventory. So there we go. And the first item here is our 3 apples in our cart. And then our inventory, if you notice, the quantity is now 2. So that's really cool. And since I pattern matched the response here, I can just type in cart and we get our cart of 3 apples. And then if I type in inventory, we just get our inventory list. And I think that's really cool. So now if we want to see if our insufficient stock works, if we go back, and I don't want to pattern match because it's going to return an error now, but I want to show you that our error is going to work. So we only have 2 apples in stock, right? So if I hit this, 3 is more than we have in stock. So we get our insufficient stock error, which is really sweet. Now we need a way to replenish our inventory for our customers that keep buying our apples, right? So if we go back to our inventory manager, let's create another function, and it will be called restock, and it will take our inventory list. And this is going to be really easy. We're going to map through just the way we did in update inventory. So enum.map, and the list we want to map through is our inventory. And then we want to do an anonymous function with our individual inventory items of product. All right. And then inside here, we want to check with an if block that if our product dot quantity is less than our product dot reorder level, then we want to do something. And what we want to do is update our product map. So product with the cons operator, and we want to update our quantity again. So just like our update function, but instead of subtracting now, we're going to be adding our reorder amount. So we're going to say product.quantity, and then we're going to add product.reorder, reorder amount. And so if our quantity level is lower than our reorder level, which if it's lower than 10, we're going to add 20 to it. And then in the else statement, if the quantity doesn't need, so if we don't need to reorder, we're just returning an untouched product. So our inventory for that product stays the same. So restock now returns an entire new inventory list for us. And so if we test this, if we jump back into our terminal and hit recompile, now when we test this, we should get a new inventory back. So let's go ahead and set up to our inventory variable. And if we do shopping cart dot restock, maybe I have to save it. Oh, I did shopping cart. This is our inventory manager. Inventory manager dot restock, and then pass in our old inventory. So we have 2 apples in inventory. When I hit enter, we should get a new inventory list back with 22 apples in inventory. And there we go. So we have 22 apples in inventory. And let me see. Oh, and our orange also only had 5 in quantity. And so now we have 25 oranges added too. So both of our low on stock inventory items have been replenished. So I think we can end this here. I do have a challenge for you though. Since we now have an inventory list and we don't have a price with the item as we add it to the cart, I want you to update our total function to work with our inventory manager, as well as the remove item function. I want you to make sure that the inventory gets the items back and our cart no longer has them. So I'll attach that final source code to this video so you can check out the solutions, and I will see you in the next video.